The chains beneath the moonlight. The prairie wind blew sharp that night, slicing through the canyons and ghost towns like a blade of ice. The campfires of the bounty hunters burned low, their smoke curling upward into a sky littered with stars. Coyotes howled from the ridges, and the river that wound through the desert whispered in the dark, carrying secrets older than the men who slept beside it. On the edge of that dying fire sat a woman, barefoot, wrists bound in iron. Her long black hair hung wild, strands tangled with dust and moonlight. She was Apache, and though they had chained her like an animal, her eyes burned with the quiet fire of something unbroken. The men who'd caught her, drifters, outlaws, bounty chasers, had boasted loud when they brought her in at dusk. Said she'd killed 2 soldiers. Said she'd led raids. Said there was gold to be had for her capture. But when night came and the desert turned cold, even their whiskey and their cruelty couldn't keep them warm. They slept heavy under their blankets, rifles within reach, leaving her tied to a wagon wheel. The cold was crueler than the chains. She shivered, her breath coming out in clouds. Her thin buckskin dress offered no mercy. Somewhere inside the wagon, a horse snorted, restless from the wind. She turned her head slightly, listening. Then, footsteps. A shadow moved near the fire. He wasn't one of them. His hat was tilted low, coat worn from the road. The man's face was rough-hewn, like the land itself, scarred, weathered, but not unkind. He carried himself with the slow confidence of someone who'd seen enough death to no longer flinch from it. The Apache woman's eyes lifted to him. "You shouldn't be here," she murmured. He stopped, just outside the ring of firelight. "I could say the same." Her voice trembled, half from cold, half from pride. "If they see you, they'll shoot." "I'll take that chance," he said quietly, kneeling by the fire. He tossed in a dry stick, watching the sparks rise. "Name's Cole Maddox. I was ridin' south. Saw their campfire." She studied him in silence. His coat was dusted with frost, his boots cracked from the road. He looked like a man who'd seen more ghosts than friends. Cole looked up at her chains. "They treat you like a prisoner." "I am," she said simply. "To them, I'm worth money." He nodded slowly. "To me, you look like a person." Her lips parted, as if the words startled her. "You speak different from the others." "Maybe I think different too," Cole said, his voice low. "You got a name." She hesitated, then whispered, "Taya." He repeated it softly, almost reverently. "Taya means wind, right?" Her eyes flickered with surprise. "You know our words." "Some," he said. "Learned them from a man who saved my life once." The night deepened. The hunters stirred in their sleep, muttering. Cole rose, shrugging off his coat. He stepped forward and draped it gently over her shoulders. She flinched at first, then froze, her breath catching in her throat. "It's warm," she whispered. "It's not much," he said, "but it's something." Her eyes softened, shimmering in the firelight. "You're kind, for a stranger." He met her gaze. Kindness ain't supposed to have a side. For a long while, neither spoke. Only the fire crackled, the wind whistled, and somewhere in the distance, thunder rolled low across the plains. Then, so softly he almost didn't hear it, she said, "Tonight, I don't want to sleep alone in the cold." The words were not an invitation. They were a confession, of loneliness, of exhaustion, of a spirit that had fought too long in the dark. Cole's chest tightened. He looked at the woman before him, the chains, the bruises, the quiet strength that refused to die, and something in him shifted. "I won't leave you here," he said quietly. She shook her head. "You can't fight them all. They'll kill you." He smiled faintly. "Wouldn't be the first to try." The moon slipped from behind the clouds, bathing them in silver light. Cole moved closer, his hand brushing the cold metal around her wrists. He studied the lock, then reached into his satchel. Taya's breath hitched. "What are you doing?" "Paying back an old debt," he murmured. Within seconds, a click echoed softly. The chain loosened. Her hands fell free. She stared down at them, trembling. "You risked your life," she whispered. "Life don't mean much if a man forgets what it's for," he said. For the first time, Taya smiled, a small, fragile thing, but real. The firelight flickered between them, and for a heartbeat, it felt as if the cold wind had stopped. Far off, one of the bounty men stirred, rolling over in his sleep. Cole turned, eyes narrowing. "We need to move before dawn." Taya nodded, clutching his coat tighter. The night was still freezing, but her heart felt warm. And as they slipped into the shadows, her chains left broken in the sand, the stars above seemed to burn a little brighter. Right into the dawn. The desert was a black ocean before dawn, the stars fading one by one as a pale gray began to wash over the horizon. Cole and Taya moved quietly through the scrub, her bare feet soundless on the sand. Behind them, the bounty hunters still slept, unaware that their prize had slipped away into the wilderness. Cole led his horse by the reins, walking slow to keep the noise down. The animal snorted softly, sensing the tension in the air. "You ever ridden before?" he asked under his breath. Taya gave a faint nod. "When I was free." He glanced at her wrists, raw and red where the chains had bitten the skin. "You are again," he said quietly. "Least for now." She looked up at him. "You risked everything." He met her gaze, steady. "Worth it." For a long while, they said nothing more. The land stretched endless before them, rock, sage, and shadow. When the sun finally rose, its light spilled gold across the cliffs, painting the desert in fire. Taya turned her face to it, eyes closed. "I thought I'd never see another sunrise outside of chains." Cole watched her. The light caught in her hair, and for the first time since he'd found her, she looked alive. He handed her a canteen. "Drink," he said. "You'll need it. There's a small town west of here, Dustwater. I know a man who won't ask questions. He can hide you." She hesitated, fingers brushing the metal flask. "You're not coming." "I can't," he said. "They'll be after us soon. If I stay, they'll find both of us." Her eyes softened, the wind lifting a strand of her hair. "You saved me just to send me away?" Cole's throat tightened. "I saved you so you'd have a chance. Don't waste it." She looked at him for a long moment, then nodded. But something in her expression said she wasn't done yet. By mid-morning, the desert heat began to rise. The world shimmered around them. They crossed a dry riverbed and followed a line of cottonwoods that marked the edge of a canyon. Cole stopped suddenly, crouching low. "Riders," he muttered. Taya froze beside him. Far behind, small figures moved along the trail, dust clouds rising with their horses. The bounty men had woken. "They follow," she said softly. "They'll keep to the open ground," Cole replied. "If we cut through the canyon, we might lose them." He swung up onto his horse and offered her his hand. She hesitated only a heartbeat before placing her palm in his. He pulled her up behind him. "Hold on," he said. When she wrapped her arms around his waist, Cole felt her trembling, not from fear, but from something deeper, something raw. He nudged the horse forward, and they rode hard. The canyon swallowed them. The walls rose high and close, the light dim and red as blood. The horses' hooves struck sparks on the stone. Behind them, faint echoes of pursuit bounced off the cliffs. Taya pressed close to him, her cheek against his back. "If they catch us." "They won't." "You sound sure." He smiled faintly. "Ain't much in this world I'm sure of anymore. But I can shoot straight." Despite the danger, a small laugh escaped her. "You're strange, white man." "Been called worse," he said. They rode until the canyon opened into a wide valley carpeted with yellow grass. A thin creek shimmered in the distance. Cole slowed the horse, breathing hard. Taya slid down first, her legs unsteady. He dismounted after her, scanning the horizon. "We'll rest here a bit. Let the horse breathe." Taya crouched by the creek, splashing water on her face. The sunlight danced on the surface. For the first time, Cole saw her smile, a real one, bright and unguarded. He sat beside her, pulling a small tin of dried meat from his pack. "Ain't much, but it's food." She accepted it gratefully. "In my tribe, we'd share whatever little we had. You do the same." "Guess kindness ain't owned by any one people," he said. Taya's eyes softened. "You speak like a man who's lost much." He looked down at the sand. "Wife. Son. Taken by fever 2 winters ago." Silence fell. The wind sighed through the grass. "I'm sorry," she whispered. He shrugged. "Don't be. I buried them under the same tree where I asked her to marry me. Sometimes I think they're still watching the sky together. Taya looked at him differently then, not just as her rescuer, but as someone who carried his own chains. She reached out, hesitating before her fingers brushed his hand. "You have a good heart, Cole Maddox," she said softly. He gave a faint smile. "Don't know about that. Just tired of seeing the world freeze over." She tilted her head. "That's why you gave me your coat." "Maybe." Her gaze lingered on him, steady and warm. "Then tonight, you shouldn't sleep alone either." The words hung between them, soft but powerful. He turned to her, caught by the quiet strength in her voice. There was no fear in her eyes now, only trust. The day waned, the sky turning amber. They built a small fire near the creek, hidden beneath the rocks. As the cold crept in again, Cole handed her the coat. She shook her head. "Keep it," she said. "We'll share." He hesitated, then sat beside her. The fire flickered, painting her face in gold and shadow. The silence that followed was comfortable, two souls breathing in rhythm with the land. By midnight, the fire had burned low. Taya leaned against him, her head resting lightly on his shoulder. Cole sat still, listening to the crackle of dying embers and the faraway cry of an owl. "Do you ever wish," she murmured sleepily, "that the world was kinder?" He looked at her, the faintest smile on his lips. "Every damn day." She closed her eyes. "Maybe it can start with us." He didn't answer, but his hand found hers in the dark, fingers intertwining. Her palm was small and rough with scars, yet it felt like the first real warmth he'd known in years. When she finally drifted to sleep, Cole kept watch. The moon rose silver above the canyon rim. For a while, he thought of his wife, his boy, the graves he'd left behind. But when he looked at Taya, he realized he wasn't lost anymore. At dawn, hooves thundered in the distance again, closer this time. Cole's eyes snapped open. He shook Taya awake. "They found us." She was on her feet in an instant. "Then we run." He nodded. They mounted the horse, and as they rode toward the sun, the bounty men appeared on the ridge behind them, 5 riders, rifles raised. Bullets whined through the air. One grazed Cole's shoulder. He gritted his teeth, spurring the horse faster. The desert blurred around them. Taya turned, grabbed the rifle from his saddlebag, and fired a single shot. One of the riders fell. Cole glanced back, startled. "You can shoot." She smiled grimly. "You think Apache women don't learn to fight?" He laughed breathlessly. "Remind me never to doubt you." They rode hard until they reached the cliffs overlooking Dustwater. Cole pulled the reins. Below lay the faint outline of a farmstead, smoke rising from its chimney. "There," he said. "Go. I'll hold them off." She shook her head fiercely. "No. Not without you. Taya. I won't leave you to die alone." The riders closed in. Cole saw it in her eyes. She meant it. He sighed, then smiled, a flash of something bright even in the chaos. "All right," he said. "Then we face them together." When the fight came, it was fast and brutal. The sound of gunfire echoed across the cliffs. Dust and smoke filled the air. Cole's aim was deadly, Taya's faster. When it ended, only silence remained, broken by the wind. They stood together among the rocks, panting, smoke curling around them. Cole's arm bled, but he was alive. She touched the wound gently. "You kept your promise," she whispered. "Guess I did." He looked at her, her face streaked with dust and courage, and something in his chest gave way. "I ain't letting you go," he said quietly. Taya smiled through her tears. "Then you never will." By the time the sun rose high, they had reached Dustwater. The safe-house Cole spoke of stood quiet at the edge of town. They rested there, bandaged and silent, watching the light spill through the window. Taya leaned her head on his shoulder, eyes half closed. "No chains," she murmured. "Never again," he promised. Outside, the world was still hard and cruel, but for the first time in years, Cole Maddox felt something like peace. And when night came again, and the cold wind swept through the plains, he built a fire and drew her close. This time, she didn't whisper her plea. She only sighed softly and said, "It's warm now." And together, they watched the stars, two broken souls who had finally found home in each other.